Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Brummel, and I will be your host today for the session PD and PE at the Phys Ed Summit. I'm excited to be here. I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunity to lead you in a session today. I hope you've enjoyed your learning so far and that you've had an opportunity to connect and collaborate with others. A little bit more about me. I'm from Springfield, Missouri. I'm the Health and Physical Education Coordinator for Springfield Public Schools. We are the largest school district in Missouri. We have 35 elementary schools, 10 middle schools, and 5 high schools. We average about 25,000 students, and we are located in the southwest region of the state of Missouri. Today's session, PD and PE, is geared towards sharing with you a pilot program that we implemented this year at 3 different middle schools. It was a successful implementation, and I hope that after this session that you will know why we implemented it, how we did it, and if you're interested, how to implement this back in your local community. If you would like to connect with us during this session, please use the hashtag PhysEdSummit and/or PD and PE. Looking forward to sharing this program with you. And before we get started, before we get too deep, I do have some important team members that I want to introduce you to. You will be hearing from these team members throughout the session. And without these 3 people, this program would not have been a success. And so let's take a second and introduce you to the rest of my team.
Sure. My name is Jasmine Bailey, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer at the Springfield, Missouri Police Department.
Officer Brandon Keene, the Resource Management Officer for the Springfield Police Department.
I am Kendall Plank, and I teach middle school PE 6th through 8th grade.
All right, now that you've met my awesome team members, we will get started. We are going to use the whole method for today's session. So we will start with the big picture, show you the program as a whole. They'll break it down and show you visit by visit and the organization and some of the strategies that we use to implement. And then we will wrap up again looking at the big picture, kind of the results and the feedback that we've got. And we're going to get started today with a local news story, Color 10, a local news station in Springfield. That does a good job of showing you the program as a whole. And I think it does a good job of introducing you to PD and PE, or in this story, you're going to hear it referred to as SPD and PE, which is Springfield Police Department and PE. So
sometimes
enjoy.
Police officers can seem intimidating, perhaps, to kids, but today officers traded their uniforms for gym shorts in Springfield to show kids that there's nothing to be scared of at all. Color 10's Nija McDonald is here tonight with more on this new program that's making this happen between the officers and the kids. Nija.
Well, David, it's not every day that a middle school student gets the opportunity to have a push-up contest with a police officer, but through SPD and PD, officers are working to build lasting relationships with students through play.
If you walk the halls of Cherokee Middle School today, you might have noticed something different. Springfield police officers trading in their normal uniforms for gym gear.
It's fun to see them because, usually when you see a police officer, you think, oh man, am I doing something wrong?
During PE, Goddard and his classmates played games like Batman with some of our local law enforcement.
We played a rock, paper, scissors game, and I went up against a lot of police officers, and it was fun because I got to win a couple times, and I thought that was cool.
Known as SPD and PE, this new program works to show students that police officers are people just like them.
It's fun because you can you see them on the streets and stuff doing their job, but then they're still normal humans that just like everybody else, just they have a bigger role, I guess.
Smiles and high fives could also be seen during today's session. The department says the goal of SPD and PE is to support healthy relationships between police officers and our youth.
They can experience what it's like to be a kid and to build the relationships with them because they're nice people. Some people get that confused.
The idea is that then they take these interactions and the stories that they have from SPD and PE, the kids, bring it home to their parents, and as they grow up, they remember these positive interactions that they've had with law enforcement, and hopefully the long-term effect would be beneficial.
Well, Bailey says during the school year's final session of SPD and PE, students will get an opportunity to tour a squad car and see an officer in uniform.
All right.
I love getting to hear from the students. I think that their perspective is very important to this story and this program. And I think that many times I have the same reaction or feelings when a police officer comes into a building or a facility or an environment that you're in. Your first reaction is there something wrong? Am I doing anything wrong? It's typically not just you don't notice. And so I can relate to a lot of their answers. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved. And I've always been taught to give credit where credit is due. And Jasmine Bailey came up with the idea, and she approached our school district, wanted to meet with someone about the potential of creating some type of program to interact with police officers and students. And so we put together a strategic planning team. I was on board. I was all in. I wanted to see what we could do with this, and I thought PE was a great opportunity for this program. And we talked about how a lot of times you'll see a viral video or a video online of an interaction between a police officer and youth, maybe shooting baskets or doing something outside. And it's always such a positive experience, and it's always a warm story. And so we kind of wanted to recreate that, but be more intentional and provide something that was ongoing, that would really provide students an opportunity to build a lasting relationship. And so when we got together as a strategic team to plan for this program, it really just took off from there. Jasmine, can you tell us why you came up with this idea, or what made this idea of yours come to life?
For me, I was looking for a way for our department to show our community that we love them. SPD and PE, for me, is a love letter to our community, a way for us to build relationships and take down those walls that sometimes are built between law enforcement and the citizens that they serve. And so I really wanted to use this as a platform to humanize our officers and build those relationships.
Brandon, why was this program PD and PE important to get started for you?
This is a great opportunity for recruiters to build that relationship and allow kids to know what opportunities are like later on, and that the police officers that they may become are just like they are, their parents are. They're just human beings that chose this profession. And with long-term understanding of that, spend the next 5, 6, 7 years researching the career field. They will know that we have a certain rule set, of course, but at the end of the day, we're just like them.
Yeah, without a doubt, was top priority. We wanted the students to have a genuine opportunity to meet, get to know, and form relationships with local police officers. We be intentional about this. We be careful about letting press in, doing PR stories, because we didn't want the students to think that we're doing this for positive press or for a specific reason or for specific feedback. We wanted this to be a genuine program. By far, our top priority was relationships. And during the strategic planning meeting, I also communicated that I wanted this more than just relationships. I wanted to use this opportunity as learnings for our physical education students to learn more about how being healthy, how being fit, about living an active lifestyle, about how that can affect your future and how that can affect your career. And so we really took this opportunity with the police academy to show this to students, and you'll see exactly how we did this visit 3-4 when we break it down. But we definitely wanted to make a connection to our Shape Standard 3, just knowing that knowledge and the skills that it takes to achieve and maintain that enhancing level of physical activity and fitness, and what it means to your future career, what that means to your life. And I feel like that made a big difference. felt like that was a big takeaway. And anytime that we can help those students be college or career ready in our field, I think that's a win. So from a big picture, it was a group of officers visiting all of our 7th grade PE classes 4 different times, and we piloted this at 3 middle schools. And so a group of 4 to 6 officers would visit a middle school. They may be there for the morning if they had 7th grade classes back, or they may come in the afternoon if there was 7th grade class in the afternoon. A lot of times, if there's a gap between 7th grade classes, the officers would stick around, eat lunch with the students in the cafeteria. Police officers were there. As you can see, the officer in the picture on the right were there in gym clothes. The police department made these awesome SPD and PE t-shirts that just kind of more casual, formal, less scary for the students. And you'll hear from a couple other people on my team about efforts that they made to help the organization of this program.
The implementation on the teacher side, I worked with the police department to come up with a couple of dates that worked for both them and my classroom for them to come and be part of our class. And then planning activities, we didn't really do anything that different. The first 2 visits, the first visit, I just made sure to plan something that students were able to work one-on-one with a police officer to help them build that relationship and that engagement in that first visit. And then the second visit, the police officers kind of just did whatever we were doing in whatever unit we were in. And then as the 3rd and 4th visits came and they were more directed towards actual police inspired activities.
Can you tell me what went into the decision of the officers coming dressed out for PE and not in their uniform?
I thought it was important to me to go into these, environments, wear the same clothes as the kids. We go to lunch with them, we eat the same food as the kids. Show them that we are just like them. We went through the same process they did when we were in elementary school. And then obviously, we wear gym clothes and work out too. We're not always sitting in a vest and with 50 pounds of gear on, doing our job and arresting bad guys. And I think that was super important to not walk in and establish that physical presence. We would call it in law enforcement, we call it a command presence. It's actually one of our first levels of force in the sense that, people don't fight us because we're the police. And that command presence can be a little bit overbearing, and it's certainly overbearing to a child. And so for me, it was very important to keep those things separated. Come in basic clothes, wear a t-shirt with our name on it, and just have a good time.
Yeah, and I loved that when I was there on visits, I never noticed an officer trying to step in to help with discipline or classroom management. They were simply there as another middle school student, there for a workout, there to have fun, there to get to know the kids better. And so that was by far my favorite part. Thought that was awesome.
Our biggest thing was not to interfere with, your guys' operations. We didn't want to change your program. Didn't want to interfere with your learning objectives. But also, it's really not our job. We don't know enough about those kids to change their behavior. And you have to understand, as a law enforcement officer, when I interact with people on the street, I'm typically a Band-Aid. I'm not a permanent solution. And that's transferable into your classroom. If people were to be taking those steps to try to correct behavior in your classroom, it's a Band-Aid response that may actually make the situation worse. And so it's, in our view, it's actually very important to us to stay out of that, let the teacher handle it, not try to take that power away from them.
All right, we're going to break this down visit by visit. So we'll describing what happened on visit number 1, when the police officers visit our middle schools. When I took part in visit number 1 in our pilot school, sitting in that little gym, middle school students can. It was the quietest I have ever heard. Middle school gym filled with 70 kids. It was, you could hear cricket in there. And as they came into the squad spots, officers were in the gym. We got started with simple introduction to the officers so that the students would know their name, know where we're from. It was real short, real simple. Coach Plank led their normal warm-up for the day, and students were participating. Officers just jumped right in. No one had to ask them. They jumped in an open spot, started the exercises with students, and no talking going on. It was just dead. It's formal. We didn't know what to expect, but it didn't necessarily surprise anyone. I guess unless you're around middle schools a lot, it surprised Coach Blank because they're always kind of squirrely, chatting, talking to each other, and not a day. Visit no one that did not happen. Was didn't have to ask twice to do their work or their exercise. They were all on it. They didn't want to look bad in front of the officers, and we were intentional about the activity that day. We had rock paper scissors activities planned. The activity that we chose was rock paper scissors. I'll show you a video of that in a second. But the reason we chose a rock paper scissors activity was that we wanted to kind of force little mini one-on-one actions between students and officers to start breaking down those barriers and giving them opportunities to have small talk and kind of just that relationship building process. And so let's take a look at our rock paper scissors activity. Video of a 7th grade class. You can see that the hoops start off big wide base to meet someone at hula hoop. You play rock paper scissors. They didn't have to play against an officer. Against here, winner moves up pyramid to the round of hula hoops, so the next level of hula hoops. And if you lose, you go back to the baseline, perform the identified exercise, and then you go back in. And so you work way up. I think we had different levels. If you made it to the very top of the pyramid, you waited for someone. If you battled in one last, where there's just one hula, if you won at that last hula hoop, then you got to go write your name up on the whiteboard. And so we kind of kept track for our competitive student who had the most points at the end. But most didn't care about that, about having fun. And then the teacher then got to kind of choose what components they were working on that day, try to prepare them, for their next fitness assessment or to work on an identified weakness for this certain class. And so the teacher could kind of switch the exercise on baseline every 3 to 5 minutes or so. And if you didn't standing at the hula hoops a lot, you can also add an exercise while you're standing at a hula hoop waiting for someone to come battle you. So that pyramid, rock, paper, scissors. So now I would love to hear what some of your favorite rock, paper, scissors activities are. I know there are so many out there. They're some of my favorite quick instant activities or ways to get students moving, engaged. And so right now, if you would, in the comment section, tell us the name. If you've got a link or a video or a resource that you can share, drop it down there. We'll kind of have maybe a little mini collection of RS activities. And if you would just take a moment to do that, resource, you can just describe it real quick. But I would love to take a moment to collaborate with each other. And I'm excited to see what some of your favorite RPS activities are. Thank you for sharing some of your favorite rock, paper, scissors activities. Hopefully you were able to learn and steal a couple new ones for implementing in your classes. One of my favorite rock, paper, scissors activities is called RPS Ask and Share. And so this is a fun way to review content and or just use it as a team builder, class builder, for students to learn more about each other. And so what you would do is you would use your projector and display these up on the screen. And it's a simple stand up, hand up, pair up, battle with someone. If I beat my partner with a rock, then I get to ask a question from the rock box, and then my partner that I beat would share their answer to that question. So it's very simple. Students get to learn more about each other. Teachers are in control of the prompts. And I love using the, you're going to see that having visit 2, where officers are coming in, joining activity that's already planned, no mention of the unit they're in or the learning activity that they had planned for that day. You're going to see at visit 2 at Jarrett, you're going to see a circuit for this. Officers are each group rotating with each group and really starting to build sweat equity. You see this happen when you have individuals putting in the work together, you sing with them. I think that's what you see athletes or other teams that work, put work together. They see you sweat. They really that sweat being put in by the officers, and that really helps build relationships. And so visit number 2 at Cherokee Middle School, and they continued along with their batting unit. And so, this day they were just doing a must-do, may-do challenge, and so officers were moving or partnering up with students, helping certain student-specific challenges, enjoying their time, and laughing, having conversations. And again, visit number 2, formal, again, top priority, relationships. Visit 3. In this visit, we start noticing the students really warming up to the officers. We don't find that awkward silence happening anymore. They're in the gym, they're normal selves. They're approaching the officer and calling them by names, having questions, asking questions without being prompted or without being kind of intentional in those one-on-one situations. And so that's great news. Starting to break down barriers. And we also have an intentional lesson, prepare visit number 3. And this is when we are really hoping to start making for the students, which shapes standard on really helping them understand the connection between their wellness, the importance of being fit, being well, and their future, and intentionally their future. So we do this by starting with a fun activity. It's a very popular activity. I'm going to show you the source here in just a second. And it was fun to get everybody moving at the beginning of this activity. At the end of that, we get into a QR code fitness activity. We typed QR code in. Students would go in small groups. Officers would participate with the group, scan QR code with a phone or an iPad. They'd read the prompt, and the prompt always is a connection between a component of fitness and a officer responsibility, jobs, other duties. And so an example of that would be you scan a QR code and the prompt would read a motorcycle officer need a strong core to hold up the cycle, which weighs over 800 pounds. So kids would not know that. They would be engaged in, I didn't know it weighed that much. I love the cycle. So then the prompt would end with an extra 10 reps. So then we're doing guys that relate to that responsibility or give the officer by improving core strength. And the students and officers exercise, they go find our code around the gym. And so you really saw students make connections, also getting a workout in, but connecting their fit, their healthiness to a future career, and also, really opened up the opportunity. Great questions for those. When we had time, we loved to end the class with a Q&A. And so while they're cooling off, while they're stretching, if someone had one of the problems, to ask an officer right there in front of them and get some real life answers, and we had some conversations at the time. We use a lot of that Google Ads for activities and ups district, and it's great to use the resources and the technology we have gyms to get some moving and engage them and give them different choices. And so we wanted to create specific for DMP, and I got to and asked for her to come up with some fun action or dance gifts that could this or that. So she sent some great resources and created this resources. So I'm going to scroll through what's done. And so officers are participating in this activity with kids, so learning through some of these problems more about each other. So obviously, if there are students that have family that work at the that they're doing jump jacks, and the officers are able to kind of make a connection real quick with those, and maybe start some conversations throughout class. Simple exercises to get our heart rate up. And then we've got, just a fun personal question, just so that they're learning. You're going to see during this time students finding out that there's some officers out there that love video games, and we've got some of our local officers doing some fun exercise gifts. We've got animal people, pet people, dog people. They always seem to bond, and so we've got some fun exercise gifts with some dogs and even a police canine there doing some push-ups. So that was fun. Andy's and Brahms are our two local hotspots for ice cream, and so that's always a fun connection. And again, some more local officers getting after it here. And we always bond over sports. It's a common way for us to bond in PE, and so we're learning more about each other. Some simple exercises. You'd be surprised how many officers are out there playing Fortnite along with our kids, and so that was a lot of laughs during that prompt. Again, some more exercises and prompts just for fun. And then the favorite part was at the end that this is our local police department doing a little team dance challenge. And so then you saw students and officers getting in groups trying to perform the same challenge. Again, with this last one, the same thing, different dance. And so we had fun just with 8 simple slides. You can go as slow or as quick as you want to, depending on your time. But just a fun way to kind of get started. Let's get into visit number 4. This was the student favorite day, and we had police academy stations prearranged, set up, so that way students could rotate from station to station, getting to engage and learn more about what might happen in a police academy training. We start the day with watching a video of the training obstacle that a police officer has to complete under a certain time for them to make it through and graduate at police academy. And so a couple of these activities kind of resemble and relate to those. So that really was a great anticipatory set and hooked the students in for today's learning. And some of the stations you can see are a fun dummy pool, a tire flip if you're able to be outside. Some schools were able to go outside and use a big tire and do a tire flip competition. If we were inside, we used a weighted dummy that the students were able to flip to resemble that same activity. And most local police departments are going to have some of those same resources that you could borrow or use, and they always brought along with them. Some of the things that we set up to go along with that was a tic-tac-toe relay race that the officers had fun racing. And then we had one station just of shooting baskets, playing knockout with the officers, just to, again, help build those relationships. You can change out some of those activities to fit the unit that you're in or to fit your facilities and your equipment. The key is just having a couple stations where the kids can make those connections to the police academy or responsibilities or what goes into training to be a police officer. And so that's what we tried to do. Now that we have this set up and planned, another middle school can take this and implement this program next year and copy these stations and adapt them to fit their needs. And then for sure, the favorite was getting to sit behind the wheel of a police patrol car. They let them push all the buttons, turn on the sirens, use the mic, and yell at the principal that was outside. And so that was a lot of fun. And we're going to watch a couple of videos from visit number 4. Here's the dummy pool. Dummy weighed 180 pounds. And so you really had to lift it up off the ground to have good speed. And the officer was timing him to see who could drag the dummy the quickest. And then here was the tire flip station. So they worked together to see how quick they could flip it back and forth. We had 2 of them, so they were able to kind of have a relay race set up. Students were working hard, having fun, and seeing a similar training that a police officer would go through during their academy. Kendall, what was your favorite part about the PD and PE program?
My favorite part about the PD and PE program was the relationship I saw my students build with those officers. I would see them in the hallways giving them high fives. They would always ask, when are they coming back? How many more visits? So it was really cool for them to build a relationship with somebody outside of the school system that also values physical education.
My favorite part, I mean, there's so many stories just from working with the kids, but their willingness to open up and to tell us about their lives and for them to ask questions and just kind of see how their face lights up whenever we walk into the room. That really has been my favorite part through all of this, building those relationships.
But my biggest part is we were invested in a couple schools, but one school that was really important to me is it's a impoverished area of the town. There are a lot of kids that are in that school that are, I would call, at risk in the sense that they have some behavioral traits that could lend to criminal behavior later on. And so for me, I was that kid. I grew up at 12 years old. I was on juvenile probation. I didn't have parents in my life. And as a matter of fact, police officers were in my life, voluntarily or not, and they kind of made an impact. So for me, being in a school like that was very important to me. So I could make that impact, even if it was just for a couple kids, to let them know that someone's here for them. They're not the only ones that have ever made mistakes. I don't get into my work history or my life history with them. That's not beneficial to building their behavior. But I do, talk about, the behavior that they've exhibited before isn't necessarily indicative of how they're going to be in the future, and that they have to take these steps. And so my favorite part of it is being able to do what somebody did for me. And be a part of a kid's life that may or may not be on the right path right now, and just trying to, put them towards the right decision-making process.
So we finished up all 4 visits. We just like anybody else implementing a new program, we try to take a step back, again, look at the big picture, try to get some feedback, try to evaluate the impact and how we're going to move forward with this program in the future. And it was to measure the impact of the program and really, honestly, to get feedback from the students. And that was the 5th question. And so we got 223 responses from the students, which is pretty good for a Google form. And these were the questions we asked. We asked them what their overall opinion was. And you can see that, close to 80% of them either extremely liked or somewhat liked the program. We asked what kind of impact the program had on their opinion of police officers, which, if you remember, was one of our whys to start. And you can see that a very large percentage has a positive effect of how they feel about a police officer. Question 3, we were interested in what were their thoughts about maybe joining the police academy in the future. And I was surprised to see that We had a decent amount, 12% of students extremely more likely to consider a career in law enforcement now after the program, and 31% slightly more likely to consider a career in law enforcement. So this data point was very intriguing to Officer Keene, the recruitment officer, and data that he can use back with his team to validate using police officer time to invest in our students and time in our schools. And so this was a great data point to share with the police department. And then we kind of wanted to know the impact if students were sharing about the program outside of their PE class, and about half of them had told someone about the program. And so then the last question, the fifth question, was open-ended, constructive comments, and this is what they told us on how they felt about the program or suggestions. You can see some comments through how they liked how we related it to their career. They definitely liked pulling the 180-pound dummy at the fourth visit. And then I loved reading the student mentioning that they were scared of police, but they didn't know why. It's really a part of society, and I can personally attest to that as well. And I really thought it was neat that student felt the need to type that into a Google form. And so I think that's great feedback that we can share. Kendall, what were your big takeaways from the program as a whole?
I think my biggest takeaway is that students were able to see how fitness is a lifelong aspect. And so the students were able to make a connection between what they're learning now and how that could be applied to future careers or just future health in general.
First, and then it also kind of made me a little less calloused in the sense, as a police officer, you see a lot of negativity. And so a lot of the interactions you have with the public aren't the public that are super supportive of police officers. And so for me, it was nice to see that there's a whole generation behind us that really doesn't have that established mindset yet. And the only way we can help keep that as a positive mindset is to interact with them. So, we would have kids that weren't even in PE that saw us in the hallways in our t-shirts, SPD and PE t-shirts, and would wave and, hey, SPD, and we'd keep walking to the gym. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
I think, whenever you look at the first visit and it's kind of awkward and the kids they're afraid to talk to the officers, and then you fast forward to the fourth visit, it's just a complete 180. And bringing a uniformed officer who was never in the PE classes and a patrol car that the kids can kind of get inside, and you really just take down that wall and they can ask any questions. Whereas if you see an officer on the street, you're afraid to approach them. And so my hope is that those experiences for the kids are ones that they can carry through their life. And so any interaction that they have with law enforcement going forward, they are more aware of kind of the behind the scenes aspect of the uniform. And so that will translate into more positive interactions is the hope.
Yeah. So Jasmine, as the public affairs representative of the police department, what kind of feedback did you get from the community?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. I think the community has really embraced this program, and I appreciate how much the school district has embraced it. Once the idea was presented to you guys, you just kind of ran off with it, and that's meant a lot to us. But yeah, it's been definitely overwhelmingly positive. And I think that anytime that law enforcement is taking that extra effort to go out into the community and to build those relationships, that's a good thing.
Well, I hope that you've enjoyed learning more about PD and PE. You've seen the big picture of why we got started. You've seen each visit. You've kind of seen what it takes to run a program. Again, if you were to try this at your school or your community, you can change this to fit your site's needs or your community needs. We just wanted to provide a little bit of advice for getting started if you're interested. if it were me and I was wanting to get this started in my community, I would start off by contacting the local police department, and specifically the public affairs officer is who you would want to try to contact. And be prepared prior to that email or phone call to communicate your why. That's super important. You don't want to try to pitch a program or pitch an idea without knowing your why. It's so important to understand that. And then as you're doing your communication and your planning, you want to be consistent with that why. And don't forget to obviously communicate with your principal or building leader. You definitely want them on board. And then please feel free to use any resources that you've gathered from today's session to help pitch your idea. Feel free to use the Google slide or any of the videos to help communicate what this could look like at your school or community. And now I'm going to kick it off to the fabulous Jasmine Bailey for a little advice from the police department side.
Well, I would say if anyone is wanting to maybe implement this program, you got to start small. And as we've started with the first semester and we've been wanting to expand, a real challenge has been finding the resources to do that, finding the number of officers who are going to be able to dedicate their time to go into the schools, and then deciding what schools we're going to be in. And in an ideal world, we'd be in every 7th grade class in the entire city, but we just really don't have the resources or the staffing to do that. And so that's been kind of the biggest challenge.
Kendall, what communication efforts did you take prior to the 4 visits?
I talked with my principal. We made sure that everything was good to go there, and let the office staff know that there would be quite a few police officers joining us in the building. I also sent out a building-wide email to teachers, so when they saw police officers walking down the hall, that they knew they were coming to visit our class and to join us. And I encouraged those teachers, to engage with them in the hallway as well and spread the word with other students. I did prep my students, telling them we were going to have some visitors, but just to continue class as normal, and they were just going to join in and do whatever we were doing.
I hope that if you had any questions that you were able to provide those and get those answered. If you have any remaining questions or follow-up questions that are unanswered from our session, please use the contact information provided to reach out to me or Jasmine to ask questions, reach out for support, whatever it is that we can do to help you get a program like this started at your school or community. We're all in. We want to help other communities jump on board and see the student and community benefit from PD and PE. And so again, stay connected with us. We know that there's going to be some schools and communities that take this program and just knock it out of the park and are super successful. We want to stay connected. We want to learn from you as well, because this is a new program. You are going to find ways to make this even better. And we want to learn from you, just like you hopefully learned from this session today. So please follow along with our SPSPE on Twitter. And please, if you have anything to share today, use the hashtag PD and PE. And if you get this program up and running, we would love to hear about it. So again, stay connected, share what you're doing, and thank you again for being a part of today's learning. And I'm super excited to see maybe some of this learning taken back to schools and communities across the United States and across the world, and hopefully see this benefit students and communities. Again, can't thank you enough. It's been a great day of learning, and keep on being you. And it says a lot about you that you took your Saturday to be here to learn. And so I know that your schools and your communities are so lucky to have you. And it's a very inspiring that there are educators out there in the health and physical education world uplifting their schools and communities. And so thank you, and have a fantastic weekend.